What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my season 4 review of the Netflix original series House of Cards. So I can pretty much undoubtedly say that House of Cards is the most popular show on Netflix. It really kickstarted a lot of these new streaming services having their own original shows, and House of Cards really blew everything out of the water just with the quality of the show as well as the casting, the writing, and the directing overall. So here we are. The show began in 2013. We're already in the 4th season, and this show really got off to a crazy start this season. But let's just go ahead and put it out there. If you've been following House of Cards, you know that season 3 was practically boring. Season 3 was actually very boring. It took a very Shakespearean route, but it just didn't do anything to satisfy the needs of the show, and it also strayed away from what made the show so good in the first place. I mean, nothing major happened. They removed a lot of major characters that we had known and that we had grown to love. Doug was pretty much out of commission the entire season, so it just really had an uneventful season overall. So you can imagine that the hype going into season 4 wasn't as high and as palpable as it has been in the past, but trust me, season 4 has made amends for those sins of the past, and it certainly surpasses season 3 in every way imaginable. As a matter of fact, I will go ahead and say that season 4 is probably the best season of House of Cards since the first season. That's how good it is. And I can say that because season 4 explores a lot of themes and a lot of things that happened in the past while also developing new storylines and characters just so fluently. So everything works very, very well together to tell really an overarching story that encompasses a lot of different smaller story arcs as well. Some of the new characters that have been added: Ellen Bernstein, she plays Claire's mother who's ailing, from cancer. And then you also have the addition of Neve Campbell. I think these are two extraordinary additions to this show, some much needed new energy and freshness to the show. You also have the inclusion of many old characters. Practically every character that's popped up in seasons past appear in season 4. And that's what makes this so great, is because what season 3 did not do was address those sins of the past that we had seen unfold on screen, but it finally addresses those things in season 4, and it makes it a very eerie, very dark season overall. So I'm not diving too much into spoiler territory, but if you've seen the first 3 seasons, then you know what I'm talking about. You know the path of destruction that Frank Underwood and Claire Underwood have laid out in their path. These things really, in true to form, come back full force in the season. There are serious repercussions for the things that they've done in the past, and it's really haunting them now. The best way that I could put it is that you could treat season 4 really as like 2 mini seasons all encompassed in the one. And that's because the first 6 episodes of season 4 acts as a complete entity of its own. It has its own storyline that pretty much concludes with the 6th episode of the season. The first 6 episodes of the season really focuses on the divide between Claire and Frank that was, left in the path of viewers after season 3, and it also focuses on his campaign trail leading up to the 2016 election where he actually has to earn these votes, something that he hasn't done. And those first 6 episodes conclude with a huge shock ending, a vivid, big surprise that I don't think anybody saw coming. And then the last 7 episodes of the season focuses on Frank's new opposition in the show, his new adversary that's going up against him in the presidential election, and it's also focusing on a lot of terrorist threats and terrorist activity. So like I said earlier, if you're following me, this show is broken up really into 2 halves that make up a full season, and I think that's what works so well, is that the excitement keeps on going. The pace of the show is really good, and I found myself being okay with watching about 2 or 3 episodes at a time and taking a pause, digesting everything, and then coming back to it to watch 2 or 3 more episodes. I think that's the best method of viewing, rather than just sitting through and just plowing through all the episodes within like 2 days. Because again, you have to remember, so many old characters pop up in this show. So many old characters from seasons 1, 2, and 3 pop up this season. There's a lot of mini story arcs that have to be taken into consideration in order to fully understand and appreciate everything that's happening this season of House of Cards. And really, with the addition of these new characters, like I said, it brings an entirely new perspective of everything. It brings a new freshness to the show. The adversary to Frank Underwood in his campaign is a younger New York Republican type of character who's very hip and savvy to social media. So you're getting a whole new element into the show that Frank and Claire and his administration really can't address because they are from an older generation. And finally, the thing that I really have to mention, Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright are the anchors of this show, and they are absolutely absolutely spectacular. I mean, we've seen the extent of their performances in seasons past. We know how good they are, but you know what? The thing about season 3 that I didn't like necessarily is the conflict amongst them, because they were separated a lot. I thought the conflict was interesting, but they weren't on the same page. But when these two are on the same page, oh man, they are seriously scary. They are frightening characters. I mean, they just have so much evil intent, and they are willing to go at any lengths to get the things that they want. And props certainly have to be given to Robin Wright. You know, I felt like she was kind of shortchanged last season, but not this season whatsoever. She was really the major lead this season. Like, we focused on her character and her story a lot this season. Not to mention that she also directed a couple of the episodes this season, so she was truly at the forefront of season 4. So overall, man, I thoroughly enjoyed season 4. You can tell that this show is really on its last legs. I don't see it lasting that much longer. Season 5 may be the last. Maybe it'll go 2 more seasons, but I do feel like they are coming to a close with this saga. But you know what? I am okay with that. I am completely okay with that, because now we're finally starting to dig into the past, to reveal new things of the future, and to really introduce new characters that can carry this story on out, and then also just see the path that Frank Underwood and Claire Underwood take over the next year or maybe 2 years of this show. All of that being said, I have to give season 4 of House of Cards an 8.8 out of 10. Yes, an 8.8 out of 10. I thought it was spectacular. I thought it was high on quality. The writing was as good as ever. The introduction of new characters and the old characters that made appearances and returns made this just an incredibly enjoyable season all around. Alright folks, that's all I got for my season 4 review of House of Cards. As always, check me out on social media, JRW the Creator on Twitter and Instagram, and then go check out my website, jordanrwilliams.com, for more. And as always folks, I'll see you next time.